Never let a good crisis go to waste, and never fail to recognize the patterns. Who came up with the word cheap fake? Obviously, it's a take on the phrase deep fake, which actually means something. Cheap fake is a fun phrase because it doesn't mean anything. But so weird, the people who run Joe Biden started to use that. Then CBS News adopted it. Now the AP is adopting it. Funny how that spread, isn't it? There's going to be a policy, and this is an official prediction. There's going to be a policy based upon cheap fakes. Never let a good crisis go to waste. The people who run Joe Biden know what they're doing with the insertion of the phrase cheap fake. One is a stopgap measure. It is a disaster control because it's so evident that Joe Biden has lost his mind. The other, though, is a strategy. It's another way to censor without censoring. This is the worst clip, in my judgment. There's a lot of bad clips of Joe Biden. There's the one that's where he pretended that he used to drive truck. He used to drive semis. And that's just Joe lying. I think that's just him lying. He lies. He's lied forever. And saying he was a college president or professor, never any of those things, that's just Joe lying. This blue screen here, and obviously I'm not a doctor, I'm not a neurologist, but this is a symptom of something very, very bad. Because he doesn't just lose track of where he's at. He starts to spew gibberish, which he's done before, but man, if you've not seen the video of this, the other thing that's disturbing to me is you look at the people behind the figurehead, and if you study them, this isn't a natural reaction when someone who's supposedly a leader just utterly blue screens like this.
Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure you're going to do so.
Now, we could expect the people who run Joe Biden to come out with utterly lame statements. That didn't happen. But now they've invented a phrase, the cheap fake. And it's difficult when you can turn to things like the transcript. I'll show you as part of a White House transcript. To say it's a deep fake, meaning absolutely invented from whole cloth, AI, etc. It's a phrase that means nothing, cheap fake. So the censorship industrial complex has taken a series of hits. Alex Berenson's case is going to be heard in the same courtroom. This is Berenson's case against the figurehead and the people who run the figurehead for censorship of him. The case with the state of Missouri's AG continues to proceed. In fact, the government has tried desperately to shut that down multiple times. So you have the people who run the White House aware of the fact that they are losing the censorship industrial complex court hearings. Now, they don't care about court because they don't care about the Constitution. But it would be more convenient for them to have the Supreme Court come along and say, yes, this is all very perfectly legal, perfectly above board. So there's going to be policy because the invention of this phrase and then the merchandising of this phrase indicates to me the next step in not censoring, mind you. They're not going to censor anything. They wouldn't do that. They're going to help label things.
Ironically, several recent cheap fakes actually attack the president for thanking troops. For thanking troops. That is what they're attacking the president for. Both in Normandy, this happened, and again in Italy. And I think that it tells you everything that we need to know about how desperate Republicans are here. Instead of talking about the president's performance in office, and what I mean by that is his legislative wins, what he's been able to do for the American people across the country, we're seeing these deep fakes, these manipulated videos. And it is, again, done in bad faith.
So she takes the phrase deep fake and cheap fake and uses them interchangeably, but let's pause for a moment. Did anyone actually criticize figurehead Biden for thanking the troops? Did that ever happen? No. The criticism was a mentally decrepit old man to whom we refer to as president, who's supposedly running things, lost his mind in public. The world bosses were all gathered in a place. There were photographers in front of them. That man has been in the game long enough to know this is the pool of photographers. This is the stage setting. This is your mark. You stand here and you smile in all your glory with all the other well-meaning, wonderful leaders of the world who are just helping people live their best lives. There are great protectors. You stand there and you glad hand and you look at the guy with the parachute together as all of you who hate the armed forces sit there and thank the armed forces. The figurehead loses his mind. He shuffles to the left. He's looking around, and yeah, there's a dude putting his parachute away, but this is all given away by the fact that one of the other world bosses, a woman to whom Biden saluted, the leader of Italy. He saluted her, then he sniffed her hair. She goes and grabs him, not by the wrist, but rubs his back. Over here, Joe, over here. Remember, there's the pool of photographers. They're all gathered taking video and pictures of us. Smile, Joe. And in Normandy, of course, the figurehead ambling off the stage, leaving the president of France behind to thank our troops, our World War II troops. So they're not talking the language of fact-checking anymore because they understand that fact-checking is now laughable. So they're now saying trusted. What does that word mean? What does fresh mean with fast food? How do you measure trusted? They'll take trusted media sources like this.
You've probably heard of deep fakes, but just last week, as President Biden was at the G7 summit in Italy, cheap fake clips went viral on social media and were picked up by some news outlets. Take a look at this clip, for example. It shows Biden and other world leaders watching a skydiving demonstration before the president is seen walking away and looking in another direction. Outlets claimed that he was sort of just aimlessly wandering away. The clip amassed millions of views within just a few hours, when actually if you widen out, you can see that he was talking to one of the members of the military that was participating in that demonstration.
Now, let's talk about trust. The people who run Joe Biden invent the phrase cheap fake. The people at CBS News adopt it. Safe and effective. Safest, most secure election in history. Cheap fake. That's the way it works. Here's the policy. This is my prediction. We're going to see people who run the White House circulate this idea through so-called mainstream media, what we would call the Mockingbird media. They're going to circulate it through Silicon Valley tech executives. They're going to create something like a watermark. It would be tech and mockingbirds teaming up together to put a watermark on something, like verified. So who would verify it? And how would it be scoped? How would it be cut and edited? They're going to take this approach not just with video. I believe they'll take it with audio as well. After all, remember this. In Canada, which is a fallen country, they're inches away from forcing podcasters like me to have to register with the government. Now, I won't do that, but they're attempting to force that. Okay, then you can't be heard in Canada. Okay, I'm not registering with your government. I don't need to do that. Why do they want to do that? Because they want to license you so you can lose your license as a podcaster. In the separate country of Washington State, they made an attempt to make people who have big social media platforms or blogging platforms, they made an attempt to make us register as lobbyists. If we reach X number of people through our platforms, well, then we're lobbying because we're trying to get people to affect change. We have this, Fauci. Fauci, who understands that he is as slick as they come and as good at lying as they come and as Teflon as they come, has said in a statement that he absolutely respects the press and the freedom of the press. And then he underlines a phrase, the legitimate press. The Surgeon General of the United States is demanding a digital ID for online commentary. Why? To protect against deep fakes and cheap fakes. Watch this turn into policy.